Happy New Year, everybody! Welcome to another edition of Inside the Pigskin. Can I get any louder? I could if I want to. We'll see what happens. But I'll tell you one thing. The burning desire to get this bad boy on track after we took a little holiday break is great. I know everybody should recharge their battery. I hope everyone on this panel went out there and had a great holiday season. So with that said, I'll be able to let everybody know now that Inside the Pigskin is being broadcast around the world. Okay. The audio version of this show can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcasts. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. We're striving for more subscribers. Please also comment, like, and share the broadcast. If you enjoy it, get her out there. All right. Want to be a guest? No problem. One way to do it is through the chat room, or the other way is send your topic ideas to South Florida Tribune at gmail.com. If you want to advertise cost efficiently, call me at 954-304-4941. We broadcast live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, Twitter/X, at Tribune South. Candy Ebling is behind the scenes. I just released a new book that I'll have more. Well, I have information on, but I have other promotions in line with that book called Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. And just want to also announce, in case you missed the last show, that the two shows that will be on that network immediately, and I'm working diligently to go out there and put Inside the Pigskin, because I know I got a great show with all you guys. But NGVN TV will launch on Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire, and mobile devices. It will be in 85% of the homes in the U.S. and Canada, and 4.1 billion mobile devices. Now, I can't count the 4.1 billion. And I'll tell you what, if anybody can count the 4.1 billion without going ahead, and to me, missing a number along the way, I will give you your own show for unlimited time. Now, I'd love to be able to pay off that bet, no problem. But you got to prove to me that you said it 4.1 billion times. If not, the consolation prize is you can come on anyways if you participate. Win-win for everybody. And again, I've had pretty decent response with my book so far. The nature of it's really old school media versus new school media is what it is. So I know that everybody should be able to learn a little bit from it. All right, with that said, I want to introduce the crew, going right to left. George Eichhorn.
Hi, Scott. Hi, everybody. Happy New Year to all of you, too.
Thank you. And Travis Sherlock Holmes, not related to 4.1 million or billion, whatever I said, but at least rhymes with whatever. Welcome back.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Merry Christmas. The gift that keeps on giving. This show is still free. Let's go.
And here is Coach. Is that my best Johnny Parson or
Pretty good. Happy New Year's, everyone. Great to see you guys.
And last but not least, or second from last but not least, so don't worry, Bo, I'm going to forget about you. He only had his microphone on.
I figured he got kicked off the show already.
I'll tell you what. Well, go ahead, Bo. Welcome back to the big show before we go to Mel.
Thanks for having me on. And, of course, Happy New Year. We get to kick this 2024 off right here.
You bet. And here's Mel.
Hey, sorry about that, guys. My grandson's not feeling well, so my daughter's calling, asking me a bunch of questions. But hey, Happy New Year, everybody. Great to see everyone. Hope everyone is doing well.
So
and have a great holiday.
We're glad to have everybody back. And once again, Candy Ebling, Happy New Year to you. And I got to mention something about Candy. She was on, I believe, Chicks and Salsa tonight. And I'll tell you one thing about Candy Ebling. She's a pro on and off the microphone. She's unbelievable. And, if you have a chance to go out there and check it on my timeline on Facebook, go ahead and do it. Candy Ebling, to me, is a female version of The Natural. If I ever saw one, she is it. And so there you go, Candy. You know, I don't know if I'm as good as Don King when it comes to promoting the big events, but I guarantee I'll be as loud as he will. So all right, let's talk about the storylines as we go into this week's show. All right, well, the Michigan Wolverines overcame special teams miscues, coach. Okay, I know that had to defeat Alabama 27-20 to punch their ticket to Houston and play for the national championship. Some thoughts. And by the way, a footnote here, the University of Michigan's last title was in 1997. You know what? Candy does a much better job keeping everybody going in different orders. I'm not, but you know what? This time I'm going to start off with the special team guy himself, Coach Bono. I mean, think about it. What did they have? A muff punt or two? Kind of missed the goal.
They had two muff punts. They mishandled a snap on an extra point, and then they missed a field goal. And, you know, ordinarily you would say against a team like Alabama that, you know, that could be the difference in the game. And obviously, if they even just make the extra point, that thing doesn't even go to overtime. But the good thing for the Wolverines is they got time to clean those things up. They've been a good team. They've been very good in that area for a number of years. Jay Harbaugh actually coaches the special teams, does an excellent job. You know, Mike Mallory's there working with him. You know, those are things that are, you know, easily correctable, you know, mistakes. The muff punt, the first one, you know, that's just a case of a young player in the game trying to do too much, you know, the way he was trying to get to that ball, because, you know, let's face it, if he gets to it, there's an opportunity for a big play. But, you know, the number one responsibility for any return man is to make sure that there's only two acceptable outcomes. One is your offense is back on the field with the quarterback taking the snap from center. Or if you do a really good job, you're going to put your extra point team out there and kick an extra point. But, you know, that was the one thing that I would always stress with the return team is that we're out there because for one reason, our defense did their job, and we need to make sure that we possess the ball and get it back to our offense.
Well, I knew I had to start off with you. That was the biggest no-brainer on the planet. So with that said, I'm going to go right to left, and then we're going to end it with George and on to the next topic. But, Coach, any additional thoughts about the game? I know we zoned in on special teams, but I'm sure it's probably another thing or two that may have stood out to you.
I'll tell you what, it was it was a tremendous football game. Both of those games yesterday, man. If you're a football fan, you got everything you had hoped for. I mean, you know, Alabama played their hearts out. You know, Michigan played. You know, it's just the breaks. I guess I shouldn't be, but I didn't think that Michigan's defense would be as dominant as they were, especially in the early goings of that game.
You know what? Before I turn over to Mel, James Burgess is always on a roll. Okay, will continue to be on a roll. So, and you know what, George? Why don't you start reading these? My voice is getting
Sure.
from the medicine I have in me.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, James, for contributing tonight, by the way. The Wolverines are fortunate. Not many teams can beat Bama playing less than their A- game. Going to need better work on the D, especially the backside versus Penix and those wideouts.
Great point. Okay. With that said, Mel, give me your thoughts on the game itself, and then you're free to elaborate on James Burgess if you see the need to.
I thought it was obviously as a football fan, those are the kind of games you want to see. The game, like, you know, with Georgia and Florida State, nobody wants to watch that. Nobody wants to watch somebody get mollywopped like that. That's not a football game that anybody's interested in seeing. And, you know, we had some of those games last year, those type, you know, the national championship game ended up being one of those type of games. These are, you could see both teams were kind of tight, maybe a little nervous, a little uptight. Maybe the coaches were a little uptight. And obviously that run that, you know, the players feel that and they go out there and play a little uptight. I was really surprised at, I guess I shouldn't say I was surprised, but Michigan seemed to be the more physical team at the line of scrimmage. They dominated the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. Although they had some troubles running the ball initially, they were able to find their grooves with just a couple plays. And it was only a couple plays that Alabama could not figure out, whether it's because of the type of defense they were running, but any kind of crossing pattern, Alabama had a very difficult time dealing with that. Running back coming out of the backfield from behind the line of scrimmage, coming across the formation, they had no answer for that. So I was kind of surprised that, with all the time that they had to prepare, that Alabama wasn't more prepared for that. And then offensively, Alabama just didn't do a whole lot at all creatively. The quarterback seemed to be in trouble all day off. The very first play, he gets sacked. It's like a surprise. Like the offensive lineman didn't see that. You get a corner blitz, offensive lineman tries to block two. Inevitably, when you try to block two, you get none. You get one, get the closest guy in, and let the outside guy run free. So there's a lot of this simple coaching things. I mean, that's fundamentals that we're taught way back in high school that weren't being done at that level, that they weren't executing at that level in that game. So I was really surprised about that by Alabama on Alabama's side, knowing the type, that Nick Saban is really a teacher as well as a coach. But other than that, it was a great game to watch, very enjoyable. You're sitting on pins and needles, that's what you want. Makes you sit there and watch the whole game, the entire game, which I did. And I didn't have a dog in the fight, so it didn't matter to me who won the game. I was just glad to see a good football game.
Okay, before I turn over to you, Bo, Coach Bono, this one's for you. And I'm not talking about Barry Manilow's song. This one's for you, but this question is for you. I had to get a Barry Manilow reference. I really did. Sorry, Coach Bono. Why does Saban play man at the goal line?
Probably, so I'm sure to keep more people in the front, play. I'm the last one to question Nick Saban. I mean, Mel referred to a lot of those crossing routes. I'm sure that they play a lot of combination coverages or have banjo calls and that sort of thing. And
I didn't see a banjo. That's what I was looking for. Where's the banjo at?
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know what they were doing, but they definitely lost some guys, turned some people loose. Shoot. Nick Saban's forgotten more about defense than I'll ever know. So I appreciate the question, KR, but I'm going to leave it at that. I don't know.
Well, he also adds, Coach, he got burned on another rub route. He lost the NC to Clemson because he runs man inside the 5. So you break down the second part if you want to.
Yeah, he lost that national championship game to Clemson on a similar route. Yep.
Okay. All right, Kayla, just to let you know, KR, I have a gut feeling you're going to be on next Tuesday night where you're going to be able to talk about that. I'm going to load this show up next week after that championship game. So just be ready to go there. Okay. But that said, Bo's been patiently waiting. So go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, on the championship game, it's funny because it's, you lose a game on that, but at the same time, it's an execution thing. It's not necessarily that the play call is horrible. They just didn't execute the play. So, I mean, at the end of the day, you're running some man on the backside because you want to have some help in the run defense up front. So I can't really fault him on the play call. Just the execution isn't quite what you wanted. So, I mean, I wouldn't say he called the wrong thing. It just didn't work out how it was drawn up. As far as the Michigan-Alabama game, it was a great game. It was a fun watch. You really couldn't have asked for much more out of it. But well, it's tough to get burned if you're not tracking with it.
See, this is what's good about this first show of the new year. We can all enjoy all these things. All of our followers are getting good stuff, KR. Like now, you're definitely ticketed for next Tuesday. Just make free up your calendar. Right, go ahead, Bo. I know you get choked up. I do too. Don't worry, George. I can have another one to read.
But yeah, so it's really both of those games were exactly what you wanted. It was hilarious because after Alabama lost, some of the Florida State players came out and they're like, "Oh, that's what it's like when it's given, not earned." And I guess they forgot that like 5 seconds ago they got boat raced by Georgia. So, I mean, I don't really know why they were out on social media trying to talk down to Alabama that took Michigan into overtime to win, and they got beat down by 50-something points. I feel like if you get a 50-point beat down, you just kind of keep it close to the vest and go home. But yeah, both those games were a blast to watch. There were definitely some letdowns. I think some of it, to Mel's point, was nerves to some degree. But yeah, they were both really fun watches.
Well, back to the chat room. Hang on, Sherlock Icorn, you get to read this one too.
+1, Mel. Good for the CFP, good for TV, good for the fans. Game was a win all around except for disappointed Bama fans.
Yeah, until he speaks
A
that.
little bit of poetry there too, maybe.
Yeah, I can tell that he takes that one tongue in cheek. I have a feeling that Alabama people are going to follow him, and I'll bet James Burgess probably doesn't care anyways. All right, anyways, Travis, go ahead.
I mean, yeah, this was a really good game. In spite of the fact that Alabama's offense wasn't the best offense in the game, they found a way to duct tape, whatever you want to call it. They found a way to make it a game. And to Mel's earlier point, you're talking about the way that Michigan basically just kind of had them in a blender with all the different bunch sets, as far as the trip sets with the receivers, as far as the running backs coming out of the backfield and all of that. That's kind of what KR is hinting at. That same, why does he play bunt? Why does he play man in the goal line? Well, he plays man because this is Nick Saban, the guy who literally tours the country every year showing NFL and college teams how to play match coverages. They do presentations on this. There's YouTube videos all out there like this. They're the ones who made this, who kind of popularized it as far as that's concerned. So yeah, they're going to, for the most part, play a lot of man coverage. Even if it's zone, it's still technically man because it's zone rules, but they're still playing man behind it. That's their bread and butter. Even when other team is more athletic and more talented than them, and Michigan truly was, that's kind of what they're going to do. They're going to live and die with that. And they lived for up until the last 3 minutes of the fourth quarter. They lived with it very well. And eventually that pipe burst and they died with it, unfortunately. But you can't blame the man for doing what they do. I mean, that's what you do as if you're a defensive coach. You do what your team does, and you hope those 18 to 23-year-olds get it right every time. And Michigan finally won a few. It sucks, but that's kind of how it went. But it was an incredible game to watch, though.
Yeah, well, you know what? I have a chat that you're going to live and die with in a moment. Okay, but meanwhile, Happy New Year, guys, from Feather Freebird. Same goes both ways. Happy New Year. And Travis, you're going to read this next one, okay?
Oh, Lord. Go Blue.
From Mr. U.
Yeah, because he wasn't waiting until. And by the way, Mr. U, I have you on my calendar for next Tuesday night. Free up your schedule, and then you can take this on a different note. So, I have to tell you, my brother Travis Holmes was thinking about you, and he was. He was. Mr. You are anything but forgotten on this show.
I had a clip of the show from 2 weeks ago when I predicted that Michigan was going to lose, already snipped. I was ready to post it. I was ready to do my celebration tour all around the socials. And then the last 3 minutes happened. Boy.
So he says, I didn't hear Travis read it. Go ahead. Can he say
Go Blue.
Oh,
Go Blue. Go Blue. Man, we got to work on your hearing, man.
He's already making his presence felt anyway, so what's the difference? But don't worry, next Tuesday night, if he's available, he really will make his appearance felt. But so, I got to tell you, operating this chat thing isn't so bad. I get to let the pros go out there and do this stuff. All right, George Icorn, what are your thoughts of the game?
Well, there's not too much more I can add. I mean, I don't know about my confidence factor, but there were some adjustments Saban made at halftime. You could tell, Michigan dominated that first half, lots of quarterback pressure, lots of quarterback sacks. And then the second half, Michigan seemed to get a little bit away from their game plan, and Alabama kind of rose to the occasion. I tell you what, I try to be as objective as I can, even though I'm a Michigan fan, but I don't know. I thought that would be only a 50-50 chance that they'd be able to close that game out. They're on a mission. There's no question about it. I mean, they're on a roll. They're the whole team bringing back seniors, bringing back talented players. JJ McCarthy is in a different world, it seems like, of being a great quarterback. And it's just a level that I have not seen with Michigan for a long, long time. So Harbaugh in his 9th year, he got it finally right. Let's face it. Let's congratulate him. He got to the finals, championship final. It's one huge step, though, Monday night. It's not going to be an easy game against Washington. They've got a very, very tough team, very good offensive team, especially. But all that being said, Detroit and Michigan, yes, they're celebrating. They're still celebrating the victory yesterday at the Rose Bowl.
The only thing that bothered me a little bit as I saw it was the Alabama starting offensive lineman walking down the Michigan sidelines. And when they did that, it's like, really? I mean, let's face it, they're going to do that. And to only think that Jalen Milroe, I think it's Jalen Milroe, got
The
sacked
quarterback.
5 times very quickly and ended up getting sacked 6, and he was running for his life the whole night. If you're the Alabama offensive line, I wouldn't be really too proud of that to begin with. That you walk down their sideline like you had a bully attitude, and in the end, you guys are shaking your heads and your heads are between your legs. That's the way it came across to me. And the other one who's laughing about it is Jim Harbaugh. I got to this college football playoff, even though you suspended me 3 games, and it's just another way for me to stick it back to that this team is bigger than I am, and Sharon Moore and the rest of this group bought into what they were doing. So it's certainly going to be interesting. We're going to have a loaded show next week because obviously we're going to be talking about it, and I want to make sure everybody gets an opportunity, even if I have to pare down the topics to 2 or 3, because this one's going to be loaded. So with that, and once again, Michigan's last title was in 1997. So
Lloyd Carr.
Lloyd Carr. Let's go on to the Bo Crouch point of view, okay? And he knows exactly where I'm going, so I'm going to start it off with Bo when I get it out there. The Washington Huskies punched their ticket to the college football playoff. Michael Penix Jr. passed for 430 yards and 2 touchdowns to win 37-31 over Tejas, Texas, okay? Washington's last title is in 1991. Okay, Bo, you didn't make it to the Winter Classic, okay, featuring the Seattle Kraken and Vegas Golden Knights, but boy, you certainly have another. We'll give you plenty to talk about this week and next week about your Huskies. Go ahead, Bo. You start this time.
Yeah, so, I mean, first, special delivery for my guy, Mr. View. Go Dogs. But, it was a really good game. There was a moment in the first half that had you worry a little bit that a momentum shift could be happening. They went down the field, they score. Texas comes back, they go back down, they score again, and then they get a nice stop on defense. They muff a punt, and then the next play, Texas punches it in, ties the game up, and it felt like that could be a real momentum shift in this game. It didn't end up being one, but when you were looking at it, you're just like, oh man, that was their chance to make it, march it right back down the field, punch them in the mouth, and make a statement. It ended up being an incredible game the whole way through. It comes down to the last seconds with, inside the 20, first and close. And, that Washington defense stepped up, made a huge stop, and they're on their way to go figure out if Michigan's for real.
All right. Well, you know what, Bo? I'm not very good on these abbreviations, so I need your help, my friend. What is this? What is this guy abbreviating?
So shake my head.
Okay. Yeah, I remember. I got to tell y'all a funny story years ago. Okay, and that's this. When I was growing up with a kid with my brother Lonnie, my parents, if there was something that they didn't want us to know, they went out there and had this language called double Dutch. So, you ever heard of double Dutch? Anything else?
Not unless you're talking about jump rope.
Yeah,
jump rope. No, my parents were not thinking about jump. So you just send the double Dutch stuff here talking around. We know what they're talking about. Of course, when my mom went ahead and started watching my broadcast years ago, she didn't know what I was talking about either, but she promoted it. So. All right, let's go back to the chat room. All right. And don't worry, Travis, you're getting a comment on some of these Harbaugh brothers are both celebrating. You know what? I want to touch on that a little bit later. Wanted to get it up there. And yes, we have a Mr. U, you're welcome moment. Yeah, thanks for your contributions. You're welcome. Good stuff. Keep it rolling. All right. Back to James. I tell it like it is, Burgess. Okay, we have nicknames too. Yeah. Harbaugh built a monster, but don't be surprised if John gets his hands on a couple of them. No, I wouldn't be surprised. He's got the best scouting report on the planet called his brother. So I'm with you all the way there, James. All right. With that said, Travis, some thoughts about the Huskies punching their ticket.
Man, it was such a good game. It really was a good. It was such a good game, and I was so ready to turn the TV off. And I want to be real about this because it was late and I'm tired. You know, you're getting old. This is what happens in life. Hey, whatever. I was ready for one of these teams to blow the other one out. I was ready for it just to be all right. It's finally over. I can turn this bad bar off and let's get ready for the national championship. Great. And then we get into the last few minutes of the game where I'll be the first one to tell you the God honest truth. I turned it off, and I think it was like after the onside kick. I turned it off, and I'm like, all right, this is over. We're good to go. Out of here. And then everybody starts going crazy on all the socials, telling me that wait, I think I might be seeing something historic happen. I'm like, wait, what did I miss? What did I miss? And then I'm playing catch up, trying to figure out, oh wait, someone got hurt. The clock, they got another 25 seconds. Oh Lord. All right, let's so turn it back on, try to figure it out. And I'm like, this game, man. These two games. This game was incredible. It really was. I mean, you get a tied game essentially at halftime, and then it's kind of a fist fight with Texas coming back at the end and actually having the ball within the 20-yard line and with the chance to take the lead. Lord, as much as I live in Florida, I'm here for all the FSU fans for their argument that they should have been in here, et cetera, et cetera. They were deserving, whatever. CFP, you couldn't have done better than these two matchups. Like this was great. These two ended up these games at midnight, whatever time it is. I don't care. I'm happy I got to see the last few plays. I'm looking forward to the championship.
Okay, George.
Well, I know one guy right below me, I bet, is very happy because, Mel, you talked about this several weeks ago about, the Pac-12 going away and the Big Ten and the tradition of playing in the Rose Bowl. And here we are. Lo and behold, we've got Washington against Michigan. I think it's very fitting with all the stuff's been going on all year and movement of teams in different conferences that we got a traditional Pac-12 Big Ten matchup for the championship on Monday night. Hats off to both teams. You guys have nailed it, man. It was great football. Both games were fantastic. ESPN did a nice job, and obviously they got their money's worth, and the fans did too, with two exciting games. And this Penix is something else. And Michigan's going to have to pull out a lot of tricks, play very intense defensively like they have been, but they're also going to have to open it up offensively too as well because Washington can surely pour the points on when they have to. So, yeah, it was a great game. Congratulations, and I'm looking forward to a matchup here that is more tradition than some people will even realize.
Well, George, it's interesting how you bring up that point too, because I was reading before we went on the air tonight that NBC or CBS will salivate over the rematch in the Big Ten next year. They haven't determined which network's going to get it, but you're looking at called a Big Ten championship cameo, so to speak. You never know if Washington stays this good, but I'll leave it. Yeah. So all I'll add to it is Michael Penix Jr. I only made it till 11:30. I mean, that's when I ran out of gas. But all I did was see him for 3 quarters. And the only thing I'll say about this guy, and we're going to get to him actually in a moment, anyways, is I hope he lands with the Seattle Seahawks. That would be an incredible story if that happens. But I'll leave it at that. I'm going to turn it over to Coach.
Well, a lot of great points. I mean, not a whole lot to add. One thing I would say that I found very interesting about that game, I've always been fascinated by one of the things of the game that I've always been fascinated by is the, clock and situation management. That's my favorite part of the game. The last 4 minutes of the half, last 4 minutes of the game, when your teams really have to be locked into field position, score, and the clock. And, the reason that it ended the way it did was the running back from Washington. Forgive me, I don't remember his name, Bo, but him getting hurt. The only way you stop the clock in that situation offensively when you've got the ball in the lead is, you're telling your backs and receivers, stay in bounds at all costs. But that that little wrinkle in the rules where there's an injury timeout, it stopped the clock, and that really was the difference that enabled. They couldn't capitalize on it, but gosh, if Texas had completed that last ball and they end up winning, that would have been the true storyline right there. So again, I said it when we talked about the Michigan game. As fans, we got everything we could have hoped for yesterday. It was a tremendous day of college football. I can't wait till next Monday to watch the national championship game.
Yeah, I don't think you would have lost either way with Michigan or Washington or Michigan against Texas when you talk about some of the winningest programs in college football history.
Absolutely.
So, but nevertheless, you make a great point. This Washington-Michigan matchup is unbelievable when you talk about the fact that Baltimore are both 14-0, and one of them will be left standing undefeated. So that's incredible. All right, Mel.
Yeah, like we talked about. I mean, that was another great game as well to watch. The one thing I find interesting is that Steve Sarkisian, started out at Washington and then he upgraded, went to USC, got fired for cause, if I'm not mistaken, and probably got arguably a better job at Texas than both the previous jobs that he had. I mean, Texas is. I guess you can flip a coin as to what's a better job, Texas or USC. But I mean, I think Texas is a pretty doggone good job. But he's done a real good job there. He's resurrected himself. His career, obviously, spending some time with Nick Saban, and then getting that Texas job. He's a great offensive mind. His teams are going to be ready offensively. They're going to do all different kind of things. It's going to be. I'm looking forward to the national championship game because styles make fights, styles make games. Michigan, number one defense in college football. Texas doesn't play much defense. Michigan can run the football, and I'm not really sold on J.J. McCarthy yet, but guess we'll have an opportunity to see what he's capable of doing. But we know that Michigan can run the football, so we know that it's going to be strength against strength. Texas' offense against Michigan's defense. That's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. So I'm looking forward to both of those games. But yeah, it's exciting to see the Pac-12 in this. In the last year of the Pac-12 to see them in the championship game. It's exciting and sad at the same time because a lot of Pac-12 schools did outstanding jobs. I don't know, I don't even want to get into it. It's just unfortunate that, the Pac-12 will no longer exist. But I am looking forward to the national championship game just because of the difference of styles.
Well, one thing I should let our audience know is that after the national championship game, one of the topics that we will be talking about is finding teams that will help rebuild the Pac-12. I know we've kicked around the tires on this one, and I think that as we go ahead and approach, the finale, then we'll be able to look ahead. So we'll just find out how we're all going to have an opportunity to say how we're going to rebuild the Pac-12. So just throwing it out there. All right, one last note I want to talk about this. We'll do a little NFL because we're only going to compare the quarterbacks for both Washington. We talked about Michael Penix Jr. Here are the numbers on him: 4,648 yards. Obviously, that's going to change after Monday night. Get a little bit further up, 35 touchdowns versus 9 interceptions. And for Michigan, J.J. McCarthy, 2,851 yards. It's a foregone conclusion. If they do what Mel suggests, if they open it up, he should be able to have no problem getting to 3,000. And he's had 22 touchdowns versus 4 interceptions. So I'm going to ask each and every one of you, compare and contrast the two quarterbacks, and I want you to give me a prediction about that game. We'll start off with George.
Oh, wow. Put me on the spot. Well,
we generally do
they're
that.
Very, yeah. No, that's okay, Scott. I'm fine. They are very, very good quarterbacks. Let's face it. They have very different talents they bring to each of their teams respectively. I mean, statistically, I have to hand it to Penix, giving him a slight edge. But don't forget, Michigan with this potent running game, and Blake Corum is just on a roll. And you got Donovan Edwards, and then you got Wilson, and you got so many different offensive weapons, the tight ends. And so even though his numbers are not as good as Penix's numbers, I really think that JJ is a very solid quarterback. He was considered for Heisman earlier in the season, but then, of course, things changed a little bit, got into a little bit of a rut, a little slump there. And he was injured slightly. They don't want to talk about it, but there was some sort of injury, I'm sure. I have to go with Michigan only because they've been waiting for so long, and I know both teams have been waiting a long time, but it's going to be a hell of a game. I'll go Michigan 31 and Washington 28.
Okay, Travis, you're up.
Yeah, this is I mean, these are obviously two significantly different quarterbacks, but they also have to be in the ways that these teams were built. Like, right, like you're talking one team that's truly, they feel more like a true team versus the other one that feels more like a spread offense, and one feels like NFL light, we'll say. So you have JJ McCarthy, who's more like a, I don't know, Kirk Cousins, someone like that. Maybe even you might want to say something like Brock Purdy kind of situation. Whereas you have Penix, who's more like a Joe Burrow. I don't want to say Pat Mahomes just because, oh gosh, he's such a unicorn. But yeah, but more like a Joe Burrow, where it's just a spread offense and they just putting the ball out there, putting it on a dime 40 yards down the field, like just a true dog of an athlete in that way. And that's what makes this so different, because win or lose for Washington purposes, like they haven't faced a defense like Michigan's, but Michigan also hasn't seen a defense like an offense like Washington. And to your earlier point, strength versus strength, who wins? That's going to be a really interesting thing, because if Washington doesn't score, I don't know, 30, do they win that game against Michigan? Because they don't play defense. That's a hard one, and that's for that reason alone. I have to assume Michigan's going to win that game, just because I don't know how that's going to go when they don't score in the low 40s or something along those lines.
Fair. Okay, Coach.
Man, and comparing the quarterbacks, man, I really like Penix. I think he is a talent. I mean, his ability to extend plays, in the pocket, his accuracy downfield on deep throws, particularly the outbreaking routes, the deep corners, is I haven't watched them play a lot, but that's the one thing that has truly jumped off when I've seen him play. I think he is absolutely outstanding. Michigan's going to lean on the run game. Mel said it earlier. I think JJ is a very, very good quarterback. I'm not completely sold on him because I just see him. I see him miss open receivers. I see him make poor decisions. They caught a break early in that game. Nobody's talked about, but with the interception where Alabama's defensive back was out of bounds when he intercepted the ball. And that was a horrifically bad throw. That was something you expect to see a high school player make, not a quarterback who's been a 2-year starter that's playing in the playoffs for the second time. Again, Michigan's defense, they'll have to carry that team. They're going to have to match up with those receivers downfield. In the end, I think that's what wins it for Michigan is their defense. I think that, but I don't think they've faced an offense that's as good as Washington has, but I don't think that Washington maybe has seen a running game or, really the multiplicity of what Michigan's done either. So I think it'll be a reasonably high scoring game unless Michigan really tries to slow it down with the run game and keep their defense on the sideline, which would be a wise thing for them to do. It's going to be a great matchup.
Do you have any idea where you think the score might fall as far as you're concerned?
I'm never good at picking scores. I'll go with give me right between what Travis and George said. I don't know.
All right. So what did you say, Travis?
35-28, Michigan.
Okay, that's good enough. All right, Mel.
Yeah, I think I confused it myself last time when I was talking about strength on strength. You're talking about Washington's offense against Michigan's defense, not Texas. And Texas, we know, was eliminated. So, yeah, I'm really interested in seeing this matchup, how Michigan is going to deal with Washington's offense. They're a big play offense. You see Michael Penix Jr. Washington likes to throw the football. That's what they want to do. You see Michigan's they're more balanced. They want to run. They really want to beat you up. They really want to pound the football, and they run to set up the pass. And Washington is probably, there for the taking. They're not very good on the defensive side of the ball. So you got strength against strength when Washington has the ball and Michigan's on defense. And that's going to be the key probably to the game. The way they got after Alabama was very surprising. Michael Penix, Washington doesn't give up very many sacks. He gets rid of the ball very quickly. He sees the field very well. He's able to buy himself a little bit of time. Michigan against Alabama, they really didn't have to run around with wide receivers too much because their rush was getting to the quarterback, whether it was with the four-man rush or whether they're bringing in somebody extra. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Washington is going to do with Michigan's pass rush, because if they're able to, I don't think that Michigan can get in the track meet with Washington. I don't think that's something that they want to do. But if Washington is able to deal with that pass rush, we know they like the big plays. They like to throw that ball down the field. So it'll be an interesting game. But I still think that Michigan comes away with this game. I think it will probably be close. It will be a one-score game. Both these, you look at how both of these teams played last week. Nobody wanted to go home. Nobody wanted to go home a loser. All four of the teams that played last week, yesterday, all of them wanted to win. Nobody wanted to go home, and I expect that we'll have the same type of competition next week when these guys play. Nobody's going to want to go home, and I expect it to be a close game. So I'm going to say it's probably going to be 28-24 Michigan.
Okay. That's good. I like that. Okay, well, Bo, you get double duty. First of all, you get to go ahead and read what's in the chat room, and then you get your thoughts.
All right. Penix is going to be a tough act to stop, but if anyone can, the Wolverine D squad can. Especially with clock control offense like they can seemingly implement at will, taking Michigan 30-24.
All right. Go ahead, Bo.
Yeah, so, I mean, for me, it's Washington can definitely win this game if they can keep Michigan from running the ball. If they can strike first and keep the pressure on and force JJ to keep pace, they can win this game, because that's not their strength, right? They want to beat you up. They want to have the running game. They want to slow the game down a little bit. Whereas Washington, if they just want to put up more points than you do, right? So defense isn't their strong suit. So if their offense can really be pushing the ball all day, Michigan will struggle. If that Michigan defense slows them down, Michigan gets to do what it is they like to do, and that is, grind on you. The Huskies aren't really built for that. That being said, the Huskies have been way better anytime they've been an underdog. They've come to the challenge, and this is another one where everybody's saying they don't have a shot. So I'm going to go with the Huskies to win, but it's going to be like 34-31. Right? Like and it's only because they're going to have to push the ball all day. And some of it, yeah, I'm a homer. And some of it is, I just think it would be awesome for Washington to win in the last year of being the Pac-12.
Bo, one of my favorite acronyms is GMTA, Great Minds Think Alike, at least close to the score. I was looking at 35-31, the Wolverines, and you get 34-31 on your end. But I got to tell you, Bo, that was as close as anybody can come to what I was thinking, only flip the other. I think the thing that the Huskies have going, I don't think they've lost to a ranked team this year, have they? So they're battle tested from what I've read. But I guess you can go back to the food of thought with George Eichhorn and I, the Michigan Wolverines. If indeed this is Jim Harbaugh's last game, he's certainly looking to get the last laugh as well. And we all know what will happen there. So you want to talk about going out on top, this would be the ideal way for Jim Harbaugh to do it. I'm going to go Wolverines 35-31, but I like everything that you guys brought score-wise, plus add James Burgess to it. And safe to say this segment turned out, as Dick Vitale would say, awesome, baby, but I don't have the voice to go louder than that. Well, good stuff. All right, well, let's turn our attention to the pros. I have three things I want to talk about. First of all, thoughts about Detroit Lions 2019 loss to the Dallas Cowboys. George, will start off with you.
Oh man.
Yes, but you don't have to write a
Oh.
book on it, George. Just give me thoughts.
Yeah. Okay. Quick thoughts. Okay. I'm not a big fan of blaming the officials for a loss. Okay. I'm not. I'm just being honest with you guys. I know a lot of fans are upset and irate. The Lions had three chances to get that ball in the end zone. In fact, Campbell could have changed his mind and just went for the tie and gotten overtime. So I'm not going to fall into this. Brad Allen, the referee's got a bad track record, though. There's no question about it. The NFL has a problem. That's another story for another day. I'm not going to get into that. But the fact of the matter is that the Lions lost the game and probably, but not necessarily, lost the chance for the second seed in the NFC. That's still debatable. I mean, still going to be changed. Decided after Sunday's games. So I thought it was a very entertaining game, a very good game. The Lions did a lot of good things. Obviously, the Cowboys and Prescott did not pour on like they've been pouring on on all their opponents at home this year. So that being said, the Lions had their chances to win it, but Goff did not obviously have a good game. You know, 2 interceptions again. I'm concerned about that. He's had very many miscues the second half of the season. Well, that's got to get cleaned up if the Lions want to contend for the championship.
Okay, Travis.
I think I would. I think I would echo a lot of what George just said in that way. Interesting. Mike Garofalo with NFL Network. He posted a thread earlier this afternoon talking about the videos that basically showing the videos that the NFL sends out to all the different teams on reporting. And the piece that nobody's talking about was on that 2-point conversion is Dan Skipper actually did go run onto the field and make the gesture to the referee. Everybody kept saying he said he never said anything to the ref, which is true, but apparently there are 2 steps to reporting. One is to verbally say it to the ref, and the other one is to do the gesture. Bingo, you got it, Coach Bono. That's and they show on the video he did do the gesture, and the ref actually pointed at him from the sideline. So it's in trying to confuse the defense, he actually confused the ref, even though he talked about it. And that's the piece that if you do the gesture, then you can leave it up to the ref to make the mistake. So it's stuck. I've actually been publicly defending Detroit in this way since the game happened. But honestly, after seeing that video, I'm like, well, dang, he does do the motion. You can't really blame him at that point. That's the ref made a decision. That's the first guy he saw. He made a decision. It stinks. But to your point, George, you could have kicked the field goal. You could have kicked the field goal. You had 3 chances, man, between the penalties and everything else. But I get he probably just didn't want it. I mean, they already had playoffs clinch. Maybe you just don't want to risk any injuries. Just get out of there. It's going to be a win or lose, but it's going to be over. Maybe that's the thought process. I don't know. But either way, it was a very entertaining game. It just sucks that that's the way it has to end. But that's uber aggressive Dan. So, you know.
All right, let me go to the chat room again very quickly. Get Rhonda from Montreal. We're getting viewership around the world. Montreal. I've known her a long, long time. One of the nicest people I've ever met. But she's a fan of the show as well as some of the other ones. Thank you, Rhonda. Happy New Year to you as well. And we'll go back to James Burgess. I'll read this because it's just in time for Coach Bono. Okay. The Lions made enough mistakes to lose a road game in Dallas, but also made enough good plays to win there. I'll skip the rest, except to say the NFL can afford full-time refs. Okay, let me continue on. And then Coach, you get first crack at James in terms of commenting. This crew is in fact awful, and Brad Allen was cited in 2017 in college for biased reffing. NFL is too rich. No excuses. Hire full-time pros. Officiate full-time pros. All right, Coach. This is very loaded here, so I'm going to.
I agree with that statement. I've been that way the whole time. I mean, the NBA, the Major League Baseball, you know, the refs in the NFL, they all have great jobs and they have the best part-time job that exists on the planet Earth. You know, I mean, and they're exceptionally well compensated as it is right now. I mean, you know, they make more than a lot of the coaches.
200K. They made like 200K,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. I mean, so you know, you got a lot of coaches on the sideline that aren't making that much money. You know, I didn't get to see the game. Unfortunately, I was driving. My wife was giving me the play-by-play. But the first thing that jumped out in my mind was, yeah, go ahead on the second one. After the second one, you know, kick the extra point, send it to overtime. But the other thing that popped in my mind is, you know, how come something like this happens to the Lions every single time we go down to Dallas, right? I mean, I was there for the playoff game in 2014 season. So it's like it's par for the course, but it's inexcusable, you know, to make a mistake that way and cost the game. You know, overall, when you take into account, you know, the bang bang nature of all the plays, the ones that they do get right, you know, and I know I've been hard on them. They do a pretty good job, but the procedural one like this, which that's what it is, it's inexcusable.
Well, let me point out. So you were at that game over at AT&T Stadium. Wasn't that where the flag was thrown and they rescinded it? If I remember on
Yeah,
that play.
on Calvin. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So they
Yeah.
rescinded the flag on Calvin Johnson. So, you know, that's good. I'm glad you brought that up. You know, and if and I ended up going to a game back at Texas Stadium when the Cowboys were Super Bowl champs. And to me, the Lions went in overtime. I was on the field for 55 minutes, and the Lions in overtime. And that to me, it goes down as one of the greatest football games I've ever seen. It really is. 25 minutes on the field, on the biggest stage against Super Bowl champs. And I remember when I talked to Chuck Schmidt, we were having dinner the night before. I asked him, "You really think you're going to win this game?" I said, "I hope you do." He said, "Scott, you know." So you know what Chuck Schmidt told me? You're going to be surprised at what you see tomorrow night. And boy, was he ever right. So, but anyway, good point, Coach. All right, Mel.
You know, like what Coach said, I mean, if you look at some of the calls, and sometimes they'll, you know, when they do a replay, like, man, these officials are really, really good as far as, I mean, the calls that they make, with whether it's spotting the football, whether it's a couple feet in bounds, whether they're juggling the ball, whether they, you know, hold on to the ball all the way through the catch, or whether I mean, they do a pretty good job, and if they do it, you know, part time, imagine how they could, you know, how much better they could be if they were full time. And they do a good job with this, doing it part time. You know, one of that situation there, you know, I know a lot's going on. Lions are trying to be slick. They're trying to pull a fast one over Dallas, and they did, but they didn't take care of the main thing, which is making sure that the right person had reported as eligible. So it's one of those things you live and learn. Nobody likes to lose. I don't blame Dan. I felt that if they scored a touchdown, that they would go for two, simply because they weren't playing that well. I don't think they wanted to go into overtime. They weren't really playing that well. Weren't really in the red zone. Weren't having very much success. And you know, it would have been nice for them to get that and get on the jet and get on back to Detroit with that W. But it didn't happen that way. I do believe, you know, after that penalty, you should have kicked the field goal and just went to overtime, I think. But, you know, I don't blame him, though. I think Dan was real stubborn at that point, and he had already had it made up in his mind that he was going to go for two. And unfortunately, it didn't work out for him. And, you know, they ended up losing the game. But, you know, I think they played pretty well. They fought to the end and gave themselves an opportunity to win that football game.
Okay, Paul.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a ton to add to that. It was definitely one of those where that play should have went down correctly. I mean, you saw 68 standing next to the ref before the play. You don't really do that as a player. Yeah, I mean, you don't just walk up to a ref and be like, "Hi," like, you know, you go up there for a reason, right? And then, but for whatever reason, it gets called back, right? At that point, kick the field goal, play smart football. I mean, were they playing their best brand of football? No, but they were holding Dallas in check as well. So, I mean, that's something where they definitely could have still won that game. Getting 3 tries at it, I don't think I would have tried it all 3 times, right? That first one gets the flag. It gets called back. Kick the field goal, and, try and win it in overtime. That being said, we're only having this conversation because it didn't work.
No, I agree. One thing I'll add to it, and I know, Travis, you might have another thought on this or so. Bear in mind, they did go for it on 4th down and didn't kick 2 field goals. But I know that Dan Campbell was playing to his personality, and that's what he's done all year. But you don't like to leave points on the table if you can conceivably avoid them. That's
right,
all
especially on the road. Like he's Doug Peterson on like on I don't even know what, on meth. Like I'm not saying a man's on meth. I'm just saying like he's on another level. He's so extra aggressive. It's like crazy to me sometimes. But that's it. That's who he is, and his team backs him on that. No. But and to everyone's point, since I know this comment came up after I already talked, but the NFL, the league referee association, I guess their contract doesn't end until 2026. So we won't have we'll have part-time referees at least until then. Unfortunately, this is going to be an ongoing conversation.
Yeah, without a doubt. And not only that, if Dan Campbell learned anything from the weekend, he should look at Jim Harbaugh, who decided to kick the extra point, 1-0 team. So we'll leave it at that. All right. Well, here's a pretty good feel-good story. How about the fact that the Cleveland Browns, led by Joe Flacco and defensive coordinator Jim Schwartz, are in the playoffs with an 11-5 record, and Joe Flacco continues to earn $75,000 a win. Jim Schwartz, anybody ever heard of him? I think he should have gotten more time in Detroit. I like him as a coach, but nevertheless, he's going there with the Browns in the playoffs, and he got Joe Flacco, not Deshaun Watson. Oh my goodness! All right, George.
Well, I heard a stat yesterday. They said that not since 1963, I think 1953 is the last time the Browns and the Lions in the same year had 11 plus wins, and we're both obviously heading to the playoffs. You'd have to go back to 1953. A lot of people don't remember that the Detroit-Cleveland rivalry was one of the most fierce rivalries in the NFL. And several championship games were decided either at the old Browns Stadium, Municipal Stadium, or Tiger Stadium, Briggs Stadium, whatever you want to call it, the old Detroit Lions Stadium. That being said, I'm happy for Cleveland. They've done a very nice job this year. I couldn't be happier for Flacco. I'm glad he's come back and been able to put step his game up a notch and help them win. I mean, it's an incredible story right now. But just like Detroit, Cleveland always has a tough time in the playoffs getting a W. So the onus is on them, just like it is here in Motown. These teams have to step forward. They got to win a playoff game, and fans and media, no one will be happy in either one of those two towns unless there's a playoff victory. So I'm happy for Cleveland. They've had a great opportunity this year to do something special, and let's see if Flacco can lead the way.
All right, before I turn over to Travis, we'll go back to the chat room. Okay, hello, Ralph Williams.
Hey, Ralph.
Glad you can join us. You're becoming a real major contributor here, and we're glad Ralph and I do a podcast called the Eternal Bump Podcast. We do it every Friday, so we'll give you more information on that. And another one, back to James Burgess. All right, George, you can read on this one, and then we turn over to it.
Yeah, just like I was mentioning a little bit there. James says Lions, Browns Super Bowl won't happen, but wow, that would be old school, classic cool.
Well, that's a classic cool comment, James.
Yeah.
Yes. All right, Travis, go ahead.
I mean, in most years, I would say that never going to happen. But goodness, in the AFC, I have no idea who's going to end up being that number one team. Like, I mean, we know who's going to likely be it. Baltimore or going into the playoffs, but anyone can beat anyone. Unfortunately, as far as this AFC side is looking, so that's going to be interesting. But no, the Browns. Jim Schwartz, they need to build a statue of that man outside of that stadium, because what he's done with that number one defense, he is basically the current iteration of Florida State's defense. Like, not the one that just got beat down, but before that. Like, he is the what they have done in Cleveland has just been insane. Like, even when the offense isn't looking good, it looks good enough because they'll give them the ball at the 30-yard line with all these turnovers and sacks, and it's pretty amazing, man. He's done a great job, like, to get them to this point with their practice squad quarterback after signing a horrific contract for their starting quarterback and losing their starting running back. Like, that is just wild. Unfortunately, it's all for naught because they're still going to lose in the first round to the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm just going to say this now. Let's just get this out of the way now. But that's going to happen because they're going to be playing in Jacksonville. But for the meantime, give them their flowers because they absolutely deserve it. And Shorts needs to be given all kinds of bonuses come this offseason.
All right, Coach.
I got to take myself off mute. George brought up a good point. I want to go back into history. George, that game between the rivalry between the Browns and the Lions, one of the few, maybe the only NFL teams that had a traveling trophy. Do you remember what that trophy was?
No, I don't, Coach.
Yep, it was titled the Great Lakes Classic, and it was the Edmunds Fitzgerald Trophy.
Oh my! Oh,
yeah, so a little NFL trivia there. I think that's still up in the offices up in Detroit. I don't know if they dust it off just when every 4 years, whatever they match up, but the Edmunds Fitzgerald Trophy. I mean, again, I think it's interesting. I mean, Jim's a friend of mine. He's done a great job. Flacco, just a great story. I mean, guy had a lot of great seasons in Baltimore, and led him to a Super Bowl. And Schwartz has a Super Bowl ring with Philly. I mean, you get in the playoffs, man. You never know what's going to happen. Never underestimate the heart of a champion. And I'll leave it there.
Well, what are you talking about? I didn't even know anything about the Great Lakes Trophy until you mentioned it. Well, I mean, I think a lot of people watching this show.
George just jogged my memory, with that.
So what?
I didn't remember.
So what? You take credit for it was your information. Come on, man.
Yeah.
You're getting the journalistic side correct, man. It's called educate and inform, and that's what you did. All right. I'm going to transition over to the running back, Mel Farr.
What was the question that we were talking about?
What was the question? I knew that. Okay. That's our Mel Farr moment.
Here you go, Mel. The Cleveland Browns, led by Joe Flacco and DC Jim Schwartz, are in the playoffs with an 11-5 record.
That matches my outline.
I mean, I think, there was talk that I had it actually pulled up here. There was talk that the Jets were looking at Joe Flacco and turned him down. Joe Flacco has done some great things late season, postseason when he had an opportunity to when he was trying to get in a contract year. So, they also Cleveland has to look at themselves at what they gave up for Deshaun Watson. I mean, Flacco was playing lights out. He's come in there now. We know Joe Flacco. He does this in spurts. Does it? I don't know. He's able to summon these kind of performances at will. Then once he gets paid, then you never see that guy again. So you just have to take it for what it's worth. Enjoy it. I think it's good for Cleveland. It's been a long time since they've had something to be excited about. But I do have to, it does make you kind of question what they gave up for Deshaun Watson. I think they were 8-1 when Deshaun Watson was playing. Is that what it was? I'm not sure. They were playing pretty well when he was there. But I think it's good for the coach too, because I think there's been a lot of talk about him and his job security. As George and John, Coach Bono both talked about the rivalry between those two original NFL teams. So it's nice to see both those teams making a nice comeback.
Okay, Paul.
Yeah, and I mean, they still have a decent rivalry with the original Browns. They just happen to have a Raven on the helmet.
That's funny.
But I mean, it's cool to see it. It's nice, obviously, for Flacco. The last time we saw him, he was in a Jets uniform. He looked about as washed as you could possibly be. And really what we've learned out of this is the Jets ruin quarterbacks. And Flacco wasn't as bad as he was. And, I mean, it's awesome to see them actually do something. But, to Travis's point, they're going to lose in the first round because it's the Browns.
Well, I'll just say this. If Cleveland goes, and I have to use my baseball impersonation, deep, because that's what I used to use calling baseball, okay? And I wouldn't have a problem with statues of both Joe Flacco and Jim Shorts in front of Cleveland Stadium. Why not? When you haven't done well, you haven't made a Super Bowl, regardless if you were the Ravens or whatever's, okay? Because obviously they were entitled to keep the name and not much of anything else. Give them both a darn statue, for crying out loud. Who cares? All right, I'll leave it at that. But it's certainly really good story.
If they build a Flacco statue, that'd be wild.
Exactly. Yeah, but I'll tell you one thing. You guys have done a really good job making Deshaun Watson look worse than he is. 300 grand. What is it? $375,000 to win, 300 grand. That's per game that he's collecting on top of what he's getting. And that isn't a bargain to tell me what the word is. I don't know, but it's a great story.
I mean, it can't be any worse than building a statue of Rocky. So, an imaginary character.
Good. Yeah, that's okay. But you know what, Travis? I will say this much, okay? No disrespect to our Philly fans. I once had the opportunity to work with Chuck Wepner down here at Lauderdale by the Sea. And in my opinion, he's a real Rocky. And I'm not going to deep in that.
Okay.
And like a lot of the boxing people I interviewed, they all got a piece of my jaw and gave it to me good, and I'm proud of it because a picture's worth 1,000 words, and so are those photos. All right. With that said, we'll go ahead and great segue. You guys are great. You guys are entertaining. I'll tell you, Coach, you're getting better at this broadcasting thing. If nobody knows if you're getting an offer that you can't refuse in coaching, but heck, man, as long as you're doing this, we're better because of it. We're still better because of it, because we're on here. So whatever. We're just trying to make a journalist out of you and a broadcaster, and he's a good teach. All right. Segue, Baltimore Ravens head coach John Harbaugh hasn't decided whether Lamar Jackson will play Saturday against the Pittsburgh Steelers. We all know that the Ravens have clinched the AFC North, and also they're the conference number 1 seed. All right, we don't have to go deep into this one. So, George, you think Lamar Jackson should sit?
I do think so. I mean, if you've got everything sewn up and you got everything lined up as far as the playoff seeding goes in your conference, I would not object to that. I mean, come on. We're resting these quarterbacks for 1, 2, 3 exhibition games every year. And this is more important than those exhibition games because you're at the postseason now, tournament that's starting. So I would say, yes, I agree. I would rest them.
What about you, Trav?
Yeah, I mean, you've already lost your main tight end a few weeks ago, to an injury. You couldn't. I mean, for someone who's already had injury issues, multiple seasons going back to his rookie season, yeah, you can't risk that 1 week from the start of the playoffs with the potential bye. Yeah, you have to sit that man down, especially when you have another quarterback who's not a significant step back. Like, he's a step back, absolutely. It's not Lamar, but he's not bad enough where you still there's a non-zero chance where they can still win this game even without Lamar playing. Like that's legitimate. So no, yeah, you sit him down.
Yeah, I don't think the Pittsburgh Steelers have complained since they're battling for their playoff existence anyways, but it is what it is. All right, Coach.
I feel the same way. I mean, if he's got anything at all, I mean, I think you said him. Their fortune, their future, their ability to advance and get to Las Vegas to hold up the trophies directly, runs through his legs and his arm. And, the past couple years, he has been nicked up. He's been hurt. And they know, I mean, it's not just the Ravens, any team, without their starting quarterback, but this guy's special. I mean, he's got my vote for MVP. I would sit him, or I would maybe start him and pull him out early. if they feel like they need to get him some work or they want to,
Right.
But again, there's no love lost between those two franchises. I
Right.
mean, Pittsburgh gets a shot on them, they're going to take a shot on them. So if they can protect them, they have the luxury. They've earned that, by virtue of the record and what they've done. I see no downside really in sitting them and really what amounts to be pretty much a meaningless game.
Okay, before I turn over to Mel, back to James Burgess. Mel, you go ahead and read this one. How'd you like that? Go ahead, Mel.
I'd sit him. The Ravens were ravaged with injuries all season. Don't push it for no reason other than yardage bonuses and such. Bigger fish to fry for a team looking for the trophy. Yeah, it's tough for me. I'm an old school guy, man. You got a game, you show up, you go to work, you do what you got to do, and injuries are a part of the game. If you try to protect yourself, you go out there, you play 100%. You give it 100%. You play full speed. And what you lay it out there on the line, and whatever happens, happens. I just believe, I would just believe in playing. Now, given his history, given how important he is to the success of the team in the playoffs, and how much of a drop off it is between him and the guy behind him, yeah, I'd rest him. It goes against everything I believe in. It goes against everything I just said. But at the same time, if I'm ownership, I'm like, hey, sit him down, and because how far we go in the playoffs depends on his health. I mean, you just see what he just did last week. How many points those guys just put up? I mean, they're playing unbelievable football, and that's where you get into that little. That's where it makes it tough, because you got that momentum going. You want him to keep that momentum going. You sit him for a week, anything can happen. So, idle mind is a devil's workshop. So I don't know, but I mean, if I'm ownership, I'd sit him.
Okay, Bo.
Yeah, so this is where I have that same problem, because I am one to go out there and play the game, right? And it's tough because having 2 weeks off, right? Because they would sit him and then they'd have the bye week. All of a sudden, you got to worry about rust on that team too, because now you're coming off of teams that are definitely momentum driven, right? Because you go straight from the regular season into the wild card. So, I mean, these are teams that have been in and week out. I think this is one where you obviously don't want to risk him getting hurt. He's had the injury history, but I think you put him out there for, maybe the first half or something, get some work in, then pull him out. Again, only because 2 weeks off of a team that has some good momentum, is playing really fluidly. Last thing you want to see is have that thing fall apart because they've been sitting on their thumbs for 2 weeks.
Yeah, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to follow Coach's lead on this. As much as I would like to sit Lamar, and I really would, I think maybe, though, 1 quarter would be enough, and that's it. Up to a quarter, and that's it. We all know in preseason sometimes you only get 1 or 2 series, and that's about it. So, you've already invested so much money. Your goal here is to win the Super Bowl, but I certainly understand the rust aspect of it too. We all know that if you're on a roll, you want to keep the roll, but then you have to be smart and look at the bigger picture. And judging by his injury history, you certainly want to put yourself in a position to win the whole thing. I'll tell you what, I'm like you, Coach. I think Lamar Jackson, or I'm sure everybody might agree that he certainly would be my choice for MVP for sure. And his play in the last few weeks has really shown it. Not that he didn't earlier, but the guy's gotten better, and you think of what he's done the last couple of weeks. He beat the Miami Dolphins handily, and by the way, he walked into San Francisco and took out the 49ers and looked good doing it. So, this guy's beating the best, and he's scoring a lot. So, I guess I'm mixed on it, but a little bit of work would be better than no work, but you better play it straight. So that's it for what we have to say. Anybody have anything else they want to add very quickly?
Scott, I'd just like to add a breaking news story, and it's ironic that we were talking, Coach, remember about the Browns and the Lions?
Yes.
Today, Frank Ryan died. He was the last quarterback to lead the Browns to an NFL title. 87 years old. Rest in peace, Frank Ryan.
Okay, Travis, anything you want to add very quickly?
Just that David Tepper, the owner of the Panthers, he stinks. And he threw a drink on a fan at the Jaguars game after they were getting demolished 26-0, and the NFL fined him $300K. I wish they could up the fines, because $300K to a billionaire, to a 20-point-something billionaire, is like $200. Like, what is that? But it is what it is.
All I'll say, it's an expensive way to pay for a ticket, although he'll probably get it written off one way or the other. Coach, what about you?
I wish the fan got that $300K.
Yes.
Yeah, well, then
They might if they sue him.
Yeah,
True.
True.
My parting shot is I want to give a shout out to the playoff selection committee being correct with Florida State. My wife's a Gator, her whole family's Gator, so that pretty much makes me a Gator. So I can't, even though I was a huge Bobby Bowden fan, and I think Jay Norvell's an excellent coach, I'm not allowed to cheer for FSU ever under any circumstances. I do think, I think Travis brought it up. I mean, it's some of the, guys, you got beat by 60. Stay off social media. I mean, it's like I always prescribe to when you win, say little. When you lose, say less. And when you lose by 60, don't say anything.
Exactly.
What about you, Mel?
I'm sorry. What was that question again?
Oh, this is easy. See, Mel's doing his crack research, but he doesn't have to. All he needs to do is provide an opinion this time. Give me a parting shot.
Oh, well, I mean,
well, I mean,
this when the first, I told my brother when the first week of football season began, you're like, man, this is the best time of year. It's the best time and the worst time of year, because it's the first week of football, but that means we also have 1 week less of football. Now here we are. The football season is winding down. Really excited with the games that we have coming up on next week in the college arena, and also looking forward to what's going to happen here in the playoffs, particularly since a lot of our home teams are, we might have a dog in the fight. So I'm just happy to turn the page on another year, and to be here amongst you all, and have the honor and the privilege to be here amongst you all, and look forward to what 2024 has in store for all of us.
Great stuff, Mel. We're glad you're here. All right, before I turn over to Bo, who gets the privilege of going with these next two, because my voice is just about done. Go ahead.
All right. Tepper making his play for Dan Snyder, crappy owner of the crappy owner of the year award. That's fair. And
the next one,
300K definitely wasn't enough, for sure. When you lose by 60, don't say anything. Words of pure wisdom. Absolutely.
That's called a GMTA with Mel Farr. Okay. So now what's your part, Chapo?
Yeah, just looking forward to a great 24, right? The show has been a ton of fun, so I'm glad to be part of it. And looking forward to whatever this podcasting adventure has this year.
Well, I'm glad. I'll tell you one thing. I'm better at this stage in 2024 than I was a year ago, because a few of you guys haven't been on here. I'm just so blessed to have everyone on, as well as Mr. You and a lot of the other people on our network as well. My parting shot is one that I've been pretty consistent with all year. The Miami Dolphins have been a sexy football team all year. Okay, sexy. Hear me out.
Sexy.
But what do we need? December and January, right? Now we'll see what the Finns are really made out of. And it doesn't help matters that Bradley Chubb got hurt over the weekend. So, well, if you're singing "We're the Miami Dolphins," okay, you better make sure that chant is good, deeper than this weekend, when they have a very tough challenge against the Buffalo Bills, who, by the way, if they win that game, will be the AFC East champs, right? And we should also point out the fact that next week, okay, we may be talking about some coaches here because it's going to be the traditional Monday, and we all know what it stands for when the unemployment day of the year in the NFL generally takes place. So we'll see. We'll see whether the Dolphins can, be serious players in the postseason. They're getting in. Now we'll just see how long they go. I mean, they've had a lot of great individual performances. Tua has been able to make it all year, stay healthy, which I think has been good. And Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle have proven to do well, and Raheem Mostert as well. So, and also great point by Candy. Okay, I got to get this one up. Thank you, Candy. We should also talk about that football will continue with the UFL, the United Football League, and that's a great point because there's only 8 teams that'll be in there, and I'll probably introduce this in the next week or two. A great point. So the XFL and the USFL have a merger, and they've had one will be the XFL conference, and the other one will be the USFL. And the 2 past winners are going to meet in the opening day. So that'll be pretty intriguing. Looking forward to seeing that as well. So Candy, once again, she's unbelievable. Then again, what else can I say? All right. Well, with that said, I'll get my stuff out there a little bit longer than most, okay? And then we'll fly through the rest, and we'll get ready for a really super broadcast next week, which will summarize the college football playoff. We might talk about coaching changes as well, and the Pac-12 thing will probably wait shortly thereafter that. So, with that said, I want to point out that Inside the Pigskin being broadcast around the world. The audio version of Inside the Pigskin can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcasts. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube South Florida Tribune. We're striving for more subscribers. Please also comment, like, and share the broadcast. Want to be a guest? No problem. Participate in the chat room. Looking forward to one of these days when James Burgess comes in here and joins us. And that is an open invite, James Burgess, so you know. So participate in the chat room. Please send your topic ideas, southfloridatribune@gmail.com. If you want to advertise cost efficiently, give me a call, 954-304-4941. We broadcast live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Our website is www.southfloridatribune.com, Twitter /@Tribune South. X, you can find us there. Candy Ebling, okay. You can go ahead and tell she's behind the scenes. She's in the chat room. She's our MVP of this show and network. And I should point out that my book, Lessons from the Media, can be obtained on Amazon and Kindle, and it's tuning into the enduring wisdom of visionary leaders. And as I mentioned to you before, and I'm working on Inside the Pigskin, okay? But for now, the 2 shows on our network that have been chosen for NGBN TV will be the Sports Exchange and Pundit and Spun It. Everybody in this panel is going to get on the Sports Exchange. So they're going to see you, and it will launch at the end of the month. Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire, and mobile devices. It will be in 85% of the homes in the U.S. and Canada, and 4.1 billion mobile devices. And the target market on this, just so you know, is men between their 40s and 60s. And it's a show really network designed to provide awareness for suicide awareness. So it's a great cause. I like what Ian Hill is doing over there. And of course, Davey Ellis and I are working with him on that. And we'll give you more updates as time goes on. So with that said, okay, George Icorn, let everybody know how they get a hold of you.
All right. You can reach me at gicorn@yahoo.com, on Twitter, or X as it's known to some, at SandGSports99. You can follow me on the South Florida Tribune. I write for the Motor City Tribune and contribute articles there, as well as locally here in Detroit. And lastly, I have a book out there called Detroit Sports Broadcasters on the Air. You can find a link to purchase that book at the end of my column at the Motor City Tribune. And you can watch me here on Inside the Pigskin. I appreciate it. And the Sports Exchange, and obviously Fire Up shows, Pundits Pundit, and just glad to be part of the team, Scott, again this year. Looking forward to it, guys.
Well, we're glad that you are. And of course, now George and I celebrated 44 years of working together on my birthday, December 29th, which is when it all started in the first place, back in WXYZ Radio Mill. I'm sure you're familiar with WXYZ, right, since you live there.
Sure.
We started 44 years of George and I working together. All right, Travis, let everybody know how we get all of you.
Yeah. You can find me on all the socials. Travis D. Holmes. You can find me, my writings covering the Jacksonville Jaguars on BigCatCountry.com. You can find me, uh, well, here every week, Tuesdays, 8:30 p.m. inside the Pigskin. You can also find Jacksonville Jaguars podcast, the Duval Dive, a Jaguars podcast, wherever you find your podcast. That's on Fridays at 11:15 a.m. And a happy Arthur Smith Day to everyone. We will see you on Tuesday.
Great stuff, Travis. All right, Coach. You're the easiest one of them all.
You can find me right here or on LinkedIn. Thank you.
Like I said, you're the easiest one of them all. Making me look like a genius for unobvious reasons or obvious reasons. All right, go ahead, Mel.
Find me on all the social media at Mel Farr Jr. That's Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, X, whatever else there may be, at melfarjr.com. Excuse me, at Mel Farr Jr. I'm sorry.
Well, that's all right. Your dad was a pretty good name in that neck of the woods, too. Hey, James Burgess. So, if you need the email address, southfloridatribune@gmail.com, and we'll go ahead and try to get you on sooner than later. All right. With that said, here's Bo. I had to have my giant. I had to have it. It's him.
Yeah, so you can find me obviously on Twitter and all of those at Football Talk with Bo. My YouTube channel at Football Talk or Football Talk, and of course you can see me on Roku 5 days a week.
There you go. And of course sooner. Okay, James Burgess will be on here with us. I'll miss you in the chat room, but have a blast with us, and that just shows you when you're loyal to us in the chat room, there's opportunity for you. We all want to be a part of it. So, but that said, this completes this edition of Inside the Pigskin. If you think tonight was loaded, stay with us next week when we go at it again at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Next week will even be loaded, and we'll even have a few more people as well. So, on behalf of George Eichhorn, Travis Sherlock Holmes, got to get the Sherlock reference in there once, Coach Bonamago, Coach Bono as we call him, Mel Farr Jr., and Bo Crouch. My name is Scott Morgan, Roth, the Motor City Madmouth. Thank you for joining us in this edition of Inside the Pigskin. We all want to wish you a happy, prosperous New Year's and hope you had a great holiday season. But now it's time for us to build this broadcast as high as we can all take it. We'll give you everything we've got to do it. So good night, and we'll see you next Tuesday. Have a great week.